Good day, everyone. I am Miss Mary Grace Mante, student of Development of Instructional Materials and Assessment of Dr. Lesa Chua in the course of Certificate of Teaching in GMRC and Values Education. So, I'll give you the content of my slides or in my discussion in instructional material development. First, the introduction. Then, importance of instructional material, development of instructional materials or IMs, phases of developing multimedia instructional materials, steps of developing materials, summary, and its references. First, let me give you the introduction of my in my video. I mean, in my presentation. Instructional materials are essential tools in teaching every subject in the school curriculum. They allow the students to interact with words, symbols, and ideas in ways that develop their abilities in reading, listening, solving, viewing, thinking, speaking, writing, using media, and technology. Let's go to the importance of the instructional materials. So, what are the importance? First, provide the core information that students will experience, learn, and apply during the course. Next, hold the power to either engage or demotivate students. Third, make learning more interesting, practical, realistic, and appealing. Fourth, enable both the teachers and students to participate actively and effectively in lesson sessions. Give room for acquisition of skills and knowledge and development of self-confidence and self-actualization. Significantly increase learners' achievement by supporting learning. Make lessons interesting, learning easy, and enable teachers to easily express concepts. So the most probably the importance of it is providing the students the core information and let them the lessons or make the lessons more interesting for them for them to easy to learn and enable teachers to easily express the concepts of the subjects. Next, we'll go to the development of instructional materials. So in the development of instructional materials, first, the instructional material development processes. So there are three. First, identification of the aim, which we can found that in the objective of the competencies in the most essential learning competencies of the DepEd. Next, outlining the means of achieving the aim. So we need to outline the means of how to achieve the aim. Third, progressive development and evaluation of trial materials. So if that's the time that we have to do the development and evaluation of the material as trial, then if already evaluate by the quality assurance, that then becomes the official instructional materials that can be used by the teachers. Next, the selection of instructional material and the identification of learning competencies. So the selection is like developing the content, instructional processes, and identification materials of ESP lessons. So based on the ESP learning material, in the MELS or the most essential learning competencies of ESP, you can have identified the objectives and its competencies to the framework of the ESP lessons. Third, identification of content, learning experiences, and instructional elements like role-playing, case studies, small group discussions, and etc. of the instructional material. So you need to identify what learning and experiences you are going to do, either for role-playing, case studies, or group discussions. Next, the fourth one, selecting pre-existing instructional materials. What are these instructional materials pre-existing? So there are some instructional materials that already pre-exist, like textbooks. So you can have that as what references you can do that for the development of your own instructional materials. Next, the fifth one is developing the instructional materials based on identified learning objectives. First, instructional material used in the teaching approaches methods in values education. So you need to you identify or what kind to develop instructional materials based on the objectives that you can use or the used in the teaching methods or approaches in values education. B. Considering learners' diversity in instructional materials development. C. Instructional materials or IMs appropriate the development of macro skills in the K-12 ESP framework. D. Instructional materials appropriate for the effective domain of learning. E. Factors to consider in development an instructional material: cost, effectiveness, contextual factors, age, interest, etc. Criteria in development instructional materials in values education. Instructional materials development. So there are major points like using all the prior analysis. So what are the prior analysis with your instructional materials development? Based on the competencies or the most essential competencies in the K-12 MELCs. Next, determining if existing materials will do the job. So, there are some materials like books, textbooks, or other learning materials that are existing already. You can have to determine if that will do the same job. Next, identifying the focus instruction-centered or student-centered. So, need to identify if that's instructional material is for instructional-centered or student-centered. Next, writing the materials. That's the major points. Now, let's go to using your prior analysis. So, from the major points, using all the prior analysis, use your instructional design that includes your needs analysis, learner analysis, and behavioral objectives to outline the flow of instructional materials. Next, can existing materials do the job? Look at existing materials and textbooks to see if any of all will serve your instructional needs. If not, then proceed with your instructional materials development. If yes, look to modifying or adjusting materials to fit in instructional needs. Instructor-centered or student-centered. So what are these? For instructor-centered, material focuses on the instructor delivering the content through lecture, demonstration, slideshow, and so on, and monitoring student progress. Next, if it is student-centered material, can be self-paced or instruction monitored while students learn individually or in small groups. Delivery of the content is not dependent on the instruction. He or she monitors student achievement of goals. Typically, computer-based instruction is base-centered. Writing the materials. Now, first, plan and write the instructional materials based on the instructional design in rough form from that you are submitted. Use rough drawings or graphics before you decide on final graphics. An expensive book. Make a rough set of the materials as complete as is reasonably possible for each instructional activity. Using the material developed in this first inexpensive rough draft, begin evaluation activities. You can either develop materials for the instructions manual as you go along or develop later from notes taken during the evaluation runs of the lessons. So, the writing of materials, first plan and write the instruction manual based on the instructional design that you need to be submitted in your subjects. Second, using the materials developed in this first inexpensive or begin evaluation activities. Next, you can either develop materials for the instruction manual as you go along or develop it later from notes taken during the evaluation runs of the lessons. Examples of this from your instructional design: introduce concept with a short lecture and demo. Lead discussion among impact of the experiment. From your instructional materials, write outline of lecture and description of demonstration, and or write discussion questions and output you expect. So there are phases also. Let's go to the phases in developing multimedia instructional materials. First, gather or digitize existing elements. Text or scan and optical character or recognition (OCR) or convert to a compatible file format. Graphics. So that's that when you can scan or convert it to file format. The graphics of the elements of your material may need to be converted or compressed. Then the animations, you choose your animations on what elements you can do for your instructional materials. Next, the video clips. Do the interview, demonstration, or raw footage on your instructional materials for your the multimedia. Next, create new elements. So after you gather and digitize existing elements, you create new elements. Write instructional text, shoot and scan photographs, either 35 millimeter film, photo CD, or digital camera. So you can have that. And then create graphics, buttons, and animations, or record, edit, and compress new narration, music, and sound effects. Shoot or edit and compress new video clips. So that's the way of how to create your new elements in the development of multimedia instructional materials. Next, bring it all together. So in bringing it all together, you need to import all media into the authoring tool. Next, assign color palette. Next, create the interface and position of the media elements. Next, program a navigational elements that provide ways for the user to move around. Next, program interactivity between the user and the program. The program transitional effects, the visual and audio. So this one is the effects, the visual and audio. Smooth design problems as they are encountered, the layout, the color, and etc. So you need to smooth design the problems. Next, there are steps of developing materials. So in developing such materials, the following steps are required. First, field survey. Next, analysis of data and identifying priority needs. Selection of the theme. Selection of format. Selection of content. Next, writing, illustrating, and editing the material. Next, pre-testing of draft material. Then, revision of draft material and preparation for printing. Next, printing, then evaluation. These are the steps. So, in summary, for the best result, these materials must be properly chosen, arranged, improved, and used in the course in order to maximize student learning. The planning and the selection of instructional materials should address both the breadth and depth of content. Additionally, there are several stages or processes of development in each learning resource or instructional tool depending on the pertinent materials meant for the learners. Be as resourceful as you can to establish a teaching and learning method that works. So, as Charles Jennings quoted, if learning material is designed to be highly relevant and delivered in context, then it is likely to be useful. So, these are my references. You can have that. And thank you.